So let's continue. Okay, so this is the next position that we have, guys. And here, as you can see, we're gonna add more pieces to the endgame. We talked about how to win and how to defend in an endgame where there are opposite colored bishops but with no other pieces. Now we added 2 rooks, and we're gonna prove that when you add other pieces, it's actually not a draw. White here is pushing for the win. White is up 2 pawns. It's this pawn here and it's this pawn here. And he's gonna try to win the game, and he is actually going to win this game. Why? Because look at this position. White is up 2 pawns. White is attacking this diagonal on which the king is sitting. So this pawn is pinned. This bishop will always be defending this pawn, and he will not really be active in the future. So when we add more pieces to an endgame where there are opposite colored bishops, the probability of the player with more pawns winning increases. So here black pushes the pawn because he has no really good moves. There are no good moves here for black, so he just pushes the pawn and prays. If he moves the king away here or here, this pawn here falls, so it's not logical. If he moves the rook, also this pawn falls. Moving the bishop doesn't really make any sense. So black only plays the pragmatic possible move of pushing one of the pawns. So white also pushes the pawns. He wants to create the battle on the king side because he has a rook and a bishop. So he knows this is a very possible endgame to win. Black shuffles with the bishop because he has no good moves. We exchange some pawns. Shuffles again. Here we push the pawn further. We're attacking with white. There's nothing black he can do. He's shuffling again. If you were black, you cannot do anything. You cannot move this rook. You cannot move it. Otherwise, this falls and it's the end of the game. So black can only here try to survive, try to wait for white to blunder or a miracle to happen. But it's not gonna happen here. Shuffles again. We push e6. We're putting more pressure. And here, black cannot do anything but take the pawn. If black does anything else, he's gonna lose. Let's say he pushes this, and then we have this, right? And we're attacking with many pieces. Now this is only 2 pieces defending, but yeah, it's gonna be a terrible loss. So black only takes and prays. I hope I don't get destroyed, but he's going to get destroyed because now the bishop takes, and it's almost the end of the game. We can march our king, and we do, to g6, and this is a checkmate that is unstoppable. You cannot give the check because I'll take you. So it's 100% winning for white, and the reason for that is the endgame was not only about opposite colored bishops, it's about rooks also. So the more pieces we have in the endgame, other than the opposite colored bishop, the higher the probability of the player with more pawns to win the game. This is what happens, and I'm repeating these things, guys, because it's very important for you to know. So these 4 positions today were very important, and with them we close the chapter of opposite colored bishops, and we also almost close the big chapter of minor pieces. We finish 1/6 of the book. This is great knowledge, a lot of informations. Let me read some very important stuff from the book. Wait a minute. These are the positions so that you guys know how much time I really sacrifice a lot of time to set the positions, to understand everything, to explain it to you guys, so I'd really appreciate some some support. So let's read the summary. Let me change to this. This is better, okay? Summary. A bishop is considered active if it's outside the pawn chain and or enjoying life on a reasonably clutter-free diagonal. A bishop is considered useful if it's doing an important defensive or dynamic task, such as defensive bishops can be ugly to look at, but its absence would cause your position to undergo serious difficulties. And we have talked about this in the last lectures, so if you didn't watch, go back and watch them. A bishop is said to be a tall pawn if it's not serving a useful function and is trapped behind its pawns, thus making it inactive. This kind of bishop takes on the persona of an overgrown pawn that sadly can't turn into a queen if it reaches the end of the board. Bishops are usually strongest in open positions. The fewer pawns in the way of a bishop, the greater its scope. And we also really talked about this. We said that endgames that contain many pawns are better for knights. Endgames that are open, the bishop has more scope to travel the board faster, so it would be better for you to have a bishop than a knight. Every time you move a pawn, check to see how it affects the activity of your bishops. Obviously, turning an open position into a closed one will have a serious effect on these pieces. So train yourself to always take the health and care of your bishops into account. And we really talked about this in openings, where you should never push the pawn that will block the scope of your bishop. Not never, but you usually don't do it. Certainly not in a beginner level, because the scope of your bishop is more important than pushing this pawn or gaining that tiny space. So while an active bishop might look good, a useful bishop trades style for substance and addresses the deeper needs, both dynamic and defensive, of a position. And here we talked about how you can see a nice diagonal for your bishop, but there's probably a better diagonal where more action might happen, or more more gain can happen if you move your bishop to that new diagonal. For example, you can stop your opponent from castling if you move the bishop to stop that castling in the right diagonal. So yeah, these are very important things that we already talked about, so I'm not gonna go deep again into them. Always think twice before placing your pawns on the same color as your bishop. In general, you should only do this if your bishop can get outside of the pawn chain, which would make it active. And if your bishop is proving useful, most likely as defender, inside the chain. Okay, we have a couple more. If you have a tall pawn, try to free it by getting the pawns off its color or by getting it outside the pawn chain. Failing those things, you can also try and exchange it for an enemy minor piece, thus following our trade bad pieces for good pieces rule. All the knowledge and good intentions in the world won't stop you from ending up with a tall pawn from time to time. If this occurs, you need to get your pawns off the color of your bishop, get your bishop outside the pawn chain, or exchange the horrible bishop for an enemy bishop or a knight. And now we're going to finish off by a couple tests, and this is not only about today's lecture, it's a test about minor pieces. So I'm going to show you guys the first position, and I'm not going to go deep, I'm not going to analyze it, I'm just going to show you what is the right move and tell you why it's the right move here. So this is the first position. It's black to move. Yeah, can you see it? Okay, I think it's clear enough. It's black to move here. What would you play and why would you play it? Stop the video and think about it. Well, first of all, you have to recognize that your light squared bishop is attacked by this pawn. That was terrible. Let me undo that. Okay, we don't need that. So your bishop is attacked by this pawn, and you don't have a lot of luft. You don't have a lot of air for your bishop. You can't move it in an active diagonal. So actually, the best move here is to take down this great knight. This is a great knight on d5. So you exchange this bad bishop for this great knight. You just take it here. He will take with this, probably with this pawn, which will attack your knight. But you can always go back here and play the game of chess. It's no problem. Yes, your position from the beginning you're worse. You don't have a lot of space, and he's attacking your bishop, but the best move you can do is exchange the bad bishop for the good knight. For the great knight, actually. This is great knight. So, yeah, because he also can, push this and cause more problems. So let's say you go back with a bishop. Let's say you decide not to trade. You go back with a bishop here. But what happens when he pushes this pawn? It's a bad position because he can, before pushing that pawn, he can always bring this rook here. So he has a lot of defenders of that pawn. And thus you have this knight, these two rooks defending that pawn. And you cannot then take it with the bishop, the knight, and the queen. So it will be a bad position for you to play. And that's why minimizing the risk, doing what you can do, which is the best move here. It's not a great, brilliant move, but it's the right logical move to exchange the bad bishop for his great knight. So this was a 1600 to 1800 level move. I don't really believe that. Even a 1200 can find it. So even lower. But yeah, let's move on to the next game. So here you have, you're playing with the black pieces also, and it's black to move. Look at the position, analyze it, and tell me what is the best move here. You should see it after a few seconds, honestly. Okay, the right move here is for black to move this bishop to d4. And you might wonder why. Well, first of all, it's an outpost. White cannot threaten that bishop by the pawns. He doesn't have a pawn here, he doesn't have a pawn here, or here, or here. So that's an outpost. That's the definition of a great outpost. Second of all, he's shutting, by moving there, he's shutting this great file for the rook. He's attacking the queen currently. So you defend the queen by shutting the file for the rook. And you're also on a great diagonal that's indirectly attacking the king. It can be very dangerous in the future. And you're also up a pawn. Materially, you're up a pawn. This is the pawn that you're up. So using that pawn as a defensive support for your bishop will make it more useful. So that extra pawn is doing a great job. Yes, I'm not seeing 30 moves ahead, but I know where the pieces belong. I know how to play positions. I know how to evaluate positions and to evaluate minor pieces and so on. And that's what this book is all about. It's not about calculations. It's not about really tactical chess and so on. It's not about any of that. It's about more positional play, how to understand the strength of the pieces, so on and so forth. And it's really helped me so far. So I think we have a great book that I'm going to continue, posting lectures about it. Yeah, I think that's it for today. We're almost done with the minor pieces. We still have some tests. We will do them next time. Yeah, we still have, he's still ranting a bit about minor pieces, but then we'll move on to something else. Yeah, here he's talking about the importance of the double bishops. So if you have the double bishops and your opponent doesn't have them, for example, he has a knight and a bishop, you have the advantage because the bishops can work together to control the board. So yeah, we're gonna talk about that a bit in the next lectures. Yeah, this is the two bishops. We have some positions. Yeah, and then we're done with the minor pieces. So I suppose one more lecture, and then we're done with the minor pieces. But what we have done so far about minor pieces is very, very helpful. So yeah, that's it for today, guys. I hope you did like the video. Yeah, I'm also having another book that I'm covering. If you didn't see that, it's about endgames because endgames are very essential, and it's a very known book in the Grandmaster world. It's called The 100 Games You Must Know. Go ahead and see that playlist. I'm also posting it on YouTube. And yeah, have a great rest of the day or a great evening or whenever you're watching this. And I'll see you guys very, very soon. Ciao.